This week's blog is different from the most recent ones, but very much in line with the very first one I did, which I did from my point of view online. Basically, it's been on my mind about the coronavirus, as it has for everyone. And one of the things that's been particularly on my mind is about the shutting of schools. And I understand that this is very likely to happen very soon. And what's bothering me is not the education of the children, but it's all these other things. It's the knock-on effects. And just as we talk about the elderly, the people who need to self-isolate being very vulnerable, we have different vulnerabilities that we're going to need to consider. I'm not professing to have answers, just I wish I did. But there are several issues that are going to come to light, and they're beginning to be discussed, even though largely they're not being discussed. I'm beginning to see maybe the odd article here and there. So the first one is children who are on free school meals. Now, as with the very first thing I talked about when I started doing the blogs, it was about the most vulnerable in our society being the most harmed in our society, and that we are a wealthy country, and yet these are the ones who are just not getting what they need. So with the meals, there's a few charities. So there's Feeding Britain, there's Akshaya Patra Foundation, Fair Share. So there are three charities that I know of that actually they're doing this anyway. They do this for like during school holidays, because these are always vulnerable periods of time for our most vulnerable children. During school holidays, they don't guarantee, there's no meal guaranteed to them. You know, for these children, coming to school without breakfast, getting, a lot of teachers, I've mentioned this before, provide just some basic toast or cereal bars for children when they come to school, the ones they know will have come without having eaten since lunchtime the day before. And of course free school meals provide food for these children. When they're on holiday, there are these charities I've just mentioned who can who try to get food out to people, but this is an issue, and this is something we need to be aware of, at least in our own locality, and we can think, is there a family we can help with this? So the meals is one thing. But the other thing is the safe space. I don't mean it necessarily in that children are going to be harmed at home, but school is respite for an awful lot of our vulnerable children. There are children for whom the 8 hours of the school day is their time away from whatever it is outside of school that is making them vulnerable or giving them difficulties of whatever type. So you have, for example, the child carers. There are children who, during their time at home, are caring for parents, for siblings, for other people who, when they're at school, they get that break. If the school is shut down, then how do these children get respite? So that's one type. There's also children for whom mental health is an issue, and at school there are people they can go to, people they can turn to. Who do they turn to when school is shut down? There's online bullying, which again can be addressed more easily at school than at home, when a child maybe ends up shut in their room on their own with their device. So these are issues we need to consider. I don't have the answers, but I think the questions need to be raised. Mental health generally is a big issue, but also children who come from abusive families. Sometimes it's school, quite often it's school, who actually are the ones who have identified that there's some form of abuse going on. They'll see a child changing for PE or something, they'll notice bruising, they'll notice changes in behaviour, changes in attitude. These children, if they are at home because of schools being shut down, how will we find these children? That leads me on to another point, which is our social workers. Our social workers are themselves put into a vulnerable situation every day. They are going to be going into homes where they're not washing their hands and doing the correct 20 seconds, soap, sanitizer, whatever. No, these are dirty homes, some of them. They're going into these homes where people don't know how to look after themselves. So they're coming into contact with people who've got the virus. They are likely to get the virus. They're also likely to have their workload increase significantly, partly because, as with everyone who's in the care industry, they're vulnerable and therefore some of them are going to need to self-isolate because of that vulnerability. But also the workload will go up, not just because they've got to take on other people's caseloads, but the caseloads could well go up because of schools shutting down and self-isolation. I'm not saying these things shouldn't happen, that we don't need schools to shut. So this is for people who understand the public health implications and who know about these things. That's not in any way my area of expertise. But I wanted to raise the concerns that go beyond, oh, you know, we can, I mean, there are some good solutions for the education. We can set up, for those who have got computers, great, set up video conferencing facilities for giving lessons. We can do virtual lessons, and a lot of the teachers I'm in touch with are planning for virtual lessons. As a lecturer, I can do virtual lectures, I can do them as webinars. That isn't an issue. But our most vulnerable in society are the ones who aren't going to be able to access this. So they not only can't access the education, but all these other issues, the being hungry, being mentally safe, being physically safe. These are issues that are going to need serious consideration, and serious consideration very soon. Thank you.